Ladies and gentlemen, change does not always come with the sound of trumpets. Sometimes it walks in quietly, wearing an apron, holding a spoon, and feeding a child who cannot see. She was just a waitress. A black woman working the morning shift at a downtown cafe. An ordinary day for many, but for her, every movement was deliberate, every step purposeful. On this particular morning, she noticed a young blind girl sitting alone at a corner table. The girl's fingers searched the air for a menu she could not read and a mother who had stepped away, and so the waitress knelt. She introduced herself softly. She described the breakfast items aloud. And when the little girl chose pancakes, she did not merely serve them. She fed them to her, one gentle bite at a time. She made her feel seen. Unbeknownst to her, at the next table sat a billionaire. One of those whose life was all spreadsheets, boardrooms, and flight schedules. She had walked into that cafe thinking she owned the world, but in that moment she realized the world had owned her, and she didn't even know what compassion looked like, until now. From that quiet corner, 5 lessons were born. Greatness is found in the smallest acts, often unnoticed and quietly performed. We grow up believing that heroism is grand, that it must come with flashing lights, roaring applause, or gold medals. But true greatness doesn't need a spotlight. It lives in the quiet corners of life, in the soft words of comfort, in the simple gestures of kindness, and in the silent decisions to do what is right when nobody is looking. It isn't forged in the noise of celebration, but in the stillness of integrity. There's a kind of bravery that never makes the headlines. The waitress who gently fed a blind child without being asked, without needing thanks, didn't perform a small act. She revealed a deep well of humanity. She didn't pause to calculate whether anyone would notice or appreciate her kindness. She saw a need and responded, because real character doesn't seek permission to care. It simply does. These quiet choices, the ones made when there's nothing to gain and everything to give, are where true greatness lives. It's in the janitor who takes extra care to leave a school spotless so children can learn in dignity. It's in the stranger who steps in to help someone across a street. In the friend who stays up late just to make sure you're okay. In the parent who sacrifices without ever asking for thanks. Greatness whispers. It doesn't need a stage. It happens when someone chooses compassion over comfort, service over self, and love over apathy. The world may not always notice, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Because these quiet acts ripple further than we can see. And sometimes, those small gestures change someone's life forever, without a single soul ever knowing. Leadership has nothing to do with titles or corner offices. It doesn't require power suits, board meetings, or a nameplate on the door. The billionaire had all of that: CEO, founder, industry titan, but in that quiet moment at the cafe, none of it mattered. Her influence, her money, her status, all faded into the background as she watched something far more powerful unfold right in front of her. A young blind girl sat at the table, nervously fumbling for a braille menu that wasn't there, and without hesitation a waitress, young, quiet, unnoticed by most, stepped in. No one told her to act. She didn't check with a manager or wait for permission. She knelt beside the girl, gently guiding her hands, describing the menu aloud, and offering samples with a quiet smile. There was no audience, no applause, but that moment, so small, so human, held the weight of true leadership. Because leadership is not a role, it's a response. It's not granted by position, but revealed in presence. The billionaire saw it and felt something shift inside, not pity, not guilt, something deeper. A recognition that for all her titles and billions, she had just been led by someone the world would call ordinary. The truth is, leadership lives in action. It's in how you notice pain and respond to it. It's how you speak with kindness when the world turns cold. It's how you make people feel seen, even if no one sees you. That waitress wore no badge of power, but her courage, compassion, and quick thinking changed not only the blind girl's day, but the billionaire's life. Sometimes, leadership wears an apron, not a title. And sometimes it's the quietest voice that carries the deepest strength. Dignity is the currency of humanity. It's not printed on paper or stored in bank vaults, yet it's more valuable than gold. When the waitress knelt beside that little girl and gently fed her, she wasn't just helping her eat. She was restoring something much deeper. She was giving her the gift of being seen, of being respected, of being human in a world that so often overlooks the vulnerable. That simple act, done without cameras, without applause, spoke louder than any speech about kindness. It told that little girl, you matter, you are worthy, you are not alone. We live in a society where too many believe that power, position, or possessions define a person's value. But dignity doesn't come from a title or a paycheck. It's not reserved for boardrooms or billionaires. True dignity is born in the quiet, sacred spaces between people, when one soul acknowledges the worth of another. The waitress, in her humble uniform, acted with more nobility than some kings. She didn't need permission. She didn't need praise. She simply did what decency demanded, and in doing so, she lifted someone's spirit from invisibility to belonging. That little girl may not remember the menu, the taste of the food, or the chatter around her, but she'll remember how someone made her feel when her world was uncertain and dark. She'll remember the warmth of a stranger's hand, the steadiness of a gentle voice, and the powerful feeling of being valued. That's what dignity does. It doesn't shout, but it echoes for a lifetime. And though it can't be bought or sold, it can be shared freely by anyone bold enough to care. In a world craving authenticity, the greatest gift we can offer is to truly honor the humanity in each other. True wealth isn't measured in stock portfolios, private jets, or gated estates. It's measured in moments that change someone else's life. That billionaire had built empires with her brilliance and ambition. She had sat across the table from world leaders, written checks that could sway markets, and cruised waters most only dream of. Yet in all her grandeur, none of it touched her soul the way that quiet afternoon in the cafe did. She had walked in expecting coffee, maybe a quick meeting. What she witnessed instead was something raw and deeply human. A black waitress kneeling beside a blind little girl, guiding her spoon to her mouth with the kind of tenderness only found in mothers and angels. There was no audience, no spotlight, no gain, just grace, and something inside her shifted. She didn't just leave a tip that day, she left a legacy. She tracked down that waitress's story, discovered the struggles that lay behind the smile, the long hours, the unpaid bills, the dreams tucked beneath survival, and she made a decision, not out of pity, but out of purpose. She paid for the daughter's schooling, bought them a home, offered the mother a position within her company that reflected her real worth, not just the job she had, because she saw what most overlook, that the greatest return on any investment isn't in profits. It's in people. It's in lifting someone from despair to dignity, in offering not just charity, but change, one life at a time. That day, the billionaire didn't just give. She became rich in a way her bank account could never quantify. She learned that the real power of wealth isn't in what you keep. It's in what you give away to rewrite someone else's story. The world changes one choice at a time. We often imagine transformation as something colossal, grand gestures, political revolutions, or global movements that shake the earth. But real change, it often begins in the smallest moments, quiet and easily overlooked. A glance, a kind word, a meal offered without expectation. These are the seeds of something far greater. One such moment came when a black waitress knelt beside a blind girl, feeding her gently while the child waited alone. It wasn't part of her job, it wasn't for applause, it was instinct, it was love, and it changed everything. That simple, almost invisible act didn't just fill a stomach, it awakened a heart. A billionaire mother, watching nearby, realized something monumental. All her wealth, her power, her empire hadn't moved her like this moment had. Because true power doesn't sit in boardrooms. It lives in human connection. And legacy is built not through dominance, but through the decision to be kind when no one demands it. We live in a world that is starving, not only for food, but for compassion, dignity, and attention. People are walking around empty, not because their plates are bare, but because their hearts are overlooked. And in that scarcity, every act of grace becomes a revolution. You don't need permission to change someone's world. You just need to be present to see, to care. When you act with quiet courage, others will notice, not to reward you, but because they've been changed by your example. Because sometimes the greatest revolutions don't come with fanfare or fireworks. Sometimes they come with a whisper and a spoon, a single moment of love in action, and in that moment the world begins to shift, one heart at a time.